I call this magnetic anchor pivot 2 at a time bandsaw rough cutting. What do you think? If you're a woodworker and you've never made a lot of the same thing, I'd recommend finding a reason to do it at least once. By a lot, I mean at least 50. When I built the first single prototype of the pencil glue-up press, an inefficiency in the process or a mistake that added 1 minute to the build time of a glue-up press just cost me 1 minute. No big deal when you're building one. Not thinking very hard about the process is fine. But that same issue on this build would cost me about an hour, and I don't have a lot of hours to waste. Even compared to previous batches of 10 presses, my methods need to level up. And I'm starting with this router jig. Cork rubber to increase the grip on the workpiece is just the start. I lost some clips of the last few steps of this jig build, but here's how it works. The two cams quickly release the two workpieces. One of them is finished, and the other gets moved to the second side for its second profile cut on the router. But before showing it in action, we need to prep the workpieces. First on the table saw, where I can say that I'm very glad that MagSwitch listened when I said that we should have a vertical fence-mounted featherboard. And second on the bandsaw. The profiles on the top of the press clamping arm are a little too large to remove on the router with the router bit without making these relief cuts. So I used the largest mag jig to create a pivot point on the bandsaw that let me batch out repeatable bandsaw cuts right where I needed them, leaving only a little bit for the router to remove. About halfway through these cuts, I realized I could cut 2 at a time this way, so definitely a time saver. And now to the router with the jig I improved. Some of you might be wondering why I didn't use the new CNC for this, and the answer is work holding. I would have needed to build a work holding system at least as elaborate as the one for this jig for the CNC. And I also would have had to do all the digital modeling and toolpath programming. I hope to get to the point of competency with both of those things that CNC is my best option, but I'm not there yet, and once this jig was made, I flew through this process, so it really wasn't too bad doing it this way. I did a video dedicated to the center drilling jig, so click the link in the top right if you want to see more on that. Drilling and tapping holes in the top of the press base and then gluing in threaded rod lengths is a bit of a design change from the previous method where I used a hex bolt. The hole for the hex bolt needed to be drilled in the bottom of the base when I did it that way, and then I was putting opaque epoxy over the hex to hide it and hold it in place. That's just too much fussing around. This is much faster and just as good. Now I sand off the sharp corners, put some finish on it, and it's done. Alright, I've got about half of these assembled. I think I'm going to stop there because I'm going to run out of these knobs pretty soon. I need to buy more of those to finish this off. And it'll obviously take a while to sell all these, so yeah, that's it.